Hey legends, and welcome to the Sim Racing channel where we're coming full circle. Back on the 31st of March, Automobilista 2 entered its early access public release phase. That release coincided with myself reigniting and pivoting this channel back towards sim racing. Maybe it was the timing, maybe it was all the promise that this game showed, but what resulted was a period of stratospheric growth where we all came together, covering the successive updates as this game began to take shape over the last couple of months. The general gist was that you guys were every bit as excited as I was, as this game represented one of our best hopes for a next generation true racing simulator covering a wide variety of racing contents. Over the last 3 months, we've seen the game develop from a buggy tech demo with a boatload of potential to being one of the best handling, best feeling and most fun racing simulators on the market. All of this without ever having left early access. Before we move on in our review, be sure to hit the subscribe to join us for future developments with AMS2 as we follow its post-launch release schedule and the many content packs planned for the near future. Today, we take a look at AMS2's monumental 1.0 release. For the first time, we can truly put it up alongside its contemporaries without the compulsory caveats of, wait, you can't judge that feature, the game isn't finished yet. We'll talk about the progress the game has made over the last 3 months, the implications of its full release, and what we're likely to see from Reza Studios in the future, both near and long term. For those of you getting into AMS2 for the first time, it's worth defining what this game is and what it isn't. The ongoing trope out there is that AMS2 is an elaborate mod for Project Cars 2, on account of it being based on the same engine. Automobilista 2 is Project Cars 2 in the same sense that Automobilista 1 was R-Factor. Yes, it uses the framework set up by the mother engine, but the data, the code, the content are all from Reza Studios. You simply have to feel the force feedback in AMS2 for the first time to know that this game shares very little in common with Project Cars 2. Between the two games, you're literally comparing best in class to worst in class. After years of custom script files for Project Cars 2, it never felt even an iota as good or responsive as AMS2 does on release day. With that out of the way, it's worth addressing the Madness engine and its potential. To those familiar with Project Cars 2, you will know that it's littered with an array of very spotty content. There are a tremendous amount of cars and tracks on offer, but the sacrifice made for them was the quality and tuning of each piece. To those of you lucky enough to have stumbled upon the good content out of the smorgasbord, you'll know that the Madness engine powering Project Cars has a tremendous amount of potential to render intuitive, dynamic driving mechanics. The feeling of dynamism in this engine, from the contortion of the suspension geometry, the effects of downforce, heat spotting and both tyre and chassis flex, was second to none. The problem was that the developers simply didn't give themselves adequate time to bring all the content up to par. AMS2 combats this by drastically reducing the amount of content on offer and instead focusing on the simulation quality of each one. While this may be a drawback for those who like to have access to a ton of licensed content, let it be said that AMS2 has a very modular release schedule with the planned support for the game lasting many years. In fact, we're already waiting on a number of high-profile track and car combinations from Spa to Silverstone and GT3 cars to old DTM races. Reza are a company that only bite off as much as they can chew, and as far as realistic racing simulators go, that's absolutely critical in ensuring that we get content of the quality we crave as real sim racers. So now we've established that AMS2 has some of the industry's best force feedback and car feel. The release content is a little Spartan and esoteric, with many regional Brazilian tracks and categories, but with much more licensed content of the type regular sim racers expect arriving just over the horizon. Now, let's go over some of the main criteria that crosses people's minds when it comes to modern racing sims. Features like graphics, sound, VR support, AI and multiplayer. The graphics are exactly what you would expect from the Madness engine. The game, catering for the differences in Reza's texturing and modelling, looks virtually identical to Project Cars 2. For many of us, that's a great thing. Project Cars 2 was renowned as the most immersive sim racing experience you could have, with spectacular day-to-night transitions and dynamic weather, with a focus on being the most robust and realistic wet weather simulator on the market. The car models and tracks look robust and modern, with great anti-aliasing and a very immersive finish. This is doubly impressive because the game isn't as much of a system resource hog as a game like Assetto Corsa Competizione. For me, it strikes the ideal balance between presentation and performance. For us sim racers, coming off titles like R-Factor and iRacing, we're certainly used to tolerating far worse. Sonically, the game is nothing to write home about. The audio content is quite spotty in its quality. Some cars like the Sigma P1 sound excellent, as if the sound designer had direct access to record the car and render it in a lifelike manner. Others, however, sound like they're using basic synthesis to approximate the sounds, like many older racing simulators did. While this is an understandable concession on account of a small team like Reza lacking the manpower to really go out there and capture these cars in the various states of operation, it's worth being said that the audio can at times be immersion breaking on account of the lack of attention to detail. If you're expecting audio quality alongside the likes of Dirt Rally or ACC, you're probably barking up the wrong tree. While I haven't had occasion to test it myself, the VR support in this game is almost universally lauded as being the best in the industry. This game reportedly boasts some of the most immersive and performance-friendly VR you can get. Having had some basic day-night and dynamic weather races against close friends in early access, I can vouch for this game being the most immersive with just a single flat monitor. So it's not a stretch to suggest that VR would take the experience to a whole new level. If you're one of those no VR, no buy people, well, then buy. AI has been a bit of a mixed bag since the game's launch. While AMS1 is renowned as having some of the most raceable AI in the business, AMS2 is still falling a little flat on this front. That being said, the developers have made massive strides with most updates since the original early access release, and the AI is incrementally improving. While the AI could currently still be called somewhat quirky at best, the developers have reaffirmed their commitment to work on this game well post-release, and this is an area we're likely to see substantial improvement over the coming months. Multiplayer was something I tested in one of the very early release candidates, and aside from the netcode issues and collision detection present in the game at the time, it was absolutely stellar. My friends and I had an absolute blast, whether we were racing hard or just having fun sliding around everywhere in the Caterham. These early netcode issues have been sorted out, and private lobbies are very easy to host, so unlike games like R-Factor, racing with your friends is convenient and just a few small clicks away. The major caveat you're likely to find is that this game doesn't necessarily have the multiplayer focus of games like iRacing, ACC or GT Sport. So given its likely niche level of popularity, you may struggle to find the amount of public lobbies you'd like. Features such as online ratings are in development, but it's likely that they won't match up to the likes of iRacing. So if multiplayer is your sole focus in sim racing, it may be worth re-evaluating this one. That covers the bulk of the game, but leaves us with one little awkward elephant left in the room. Single player campaign? Yeah, well, about that. This isn't the kind of game where you get a fully curated single player experience with goals, achievements, and arbitrary scripted payoffs. It's the kind of game where you know exactly what kind of racing you want to do and set it up for yourself. The payoff is the racing itself. While this may be a deal breaker for some of those who are used to the experiences of games like GT Sport and Forza, it's worth saying that Automobilista 2 is aimed at a different market. The people who extract joy from the driving pleasure itself. Speaking of driving pleasure, what sort of review would this be if we didn't jump into at least one race to show you how this game drives? Okay, here we are in Mount Panorama. The Aussie guy's taking you to Bathurst. I bet you never saw that coming. And guess what we're driving? V8 Supercars. What else, right? Just gotta get the race over with so we can crack open some tinnies to go with our 4 and 20. It just wouldn't have been complete unless we did this. So to those of you who've been following this game since the early access period, you'll know that Bathurst is some of the newer content. It's one of the newest tracks. Came out in the 1.0 release just a couple of hours ago now. I basically got onto this as soon as humanly possible. Was super keen to get this video done. This game is, after all, the one which launched this channel back into the sim racing sphere. Now the AI, and the reason we're doing an AI race is so you guys can check it out for yourselves, but oh boy, some new debris effects. I like it. So the AI will race you. This is the AI at 100, aggression at 50, which for me was stock settings. As you can see, this car is so difficult to drive around here. I love it. I'm used to driving the GT3s and GTEs around here in R-Factor, but this is a whole new experience. In some ways, a hell of a lot more fun. Oh, the sense of weight transfer. I wish I could somehow render to you what I'm getting through the steering column in this game. My god, this is amazing. I've seen cars do this around here before. It really gives you respect to the insane guys that do this in real life. Alright, it's the AI taking that bump a heck of a lot better than I did. I'm actually kind of jealous at how easily they're navigating this course compared to yours truly. And here's to hoping damage is off after that. So the AI, it seems like, will really race you. Now, Bathurst is definitely not my #1 most familiar track or anything like that. But a lot of conquer the mountain. There'll be a lot of failing at the mountain before I conquer anything, I think. But to give you an idea of what it feels like to drive this, it's like just like wrangling a hulking whale. It has 635 horsepower, all going to the rear wheels with absolutely no traction control. I mean, and super cheap auto. Some of our domestic branding, I love it. Some actual licensed content from Reza, super appreciated. While the track itself doesn't feel laser scanned to me, I'm not getting a lot of micro detail from the track surface. There's a lot of macro geometric stuff going on. It feels, from what I know of Bathurst, fairly accurate. So props to them. And AI getting away from me, much as expected. Let's see if we can brake on time. It's so, the lines and the markers are so different in these cars to the GT3s. Absolutely no assists, just you and a gigantic set of brass balls. I'm trying not to spin here, the car gets very light on the top. Like, this game's force feedback is second to none. I almost didn't record this video because I got caught up lapping one of the new Ginetta GT4 cars around here, and I just couldn't stop. The force feedback was unbelievable, and this is after me playing this track in R-Factor along with several others all of yesterday, basically all day. I mean, to a lot of you guys, and to myself, R-Factor is the de facto standard for force feedback in racing sims, and honestly, at this point, I think AMS2 actually has a beat. The rendering of weight, just the rendering of what's happening underneath the front axle, what the rear of the car is doing. See, I'm constantly doing micro corrections to catch this hulking beast of a car, which is why it was so important for us to check out this car on this track, because together, they make, I don't know, like, you gotta be committed if you do this in real life. Surely, something is not right with you. It's terrifying enough in a sim, much less real life. The Australian Nürburgring Nordschleife in a car that basically has no meaningful downforce. Oh man. Oh man. Oh, you could just do this. You could just lap this yourself. It doesn't even matter. The race is incidental. It's all about the driving experience. Ah, beautiful. Alright, we'll go across the line and this will conclude our V8 supercar run at Bathurst. I'll do my best to be more competitive on the future tracks, but we have a lot to get through. I want to show you guys a good spread of the content that's in this game, and there is so much. Even though it's one of the games renowned as having fairly concentrated content, there's so much to keep you occupied and so much to have fun with here. Let's get to it. Quick detour to show you some of my favorite contents in Automobilista, and the guys that have followed this channel since the outset will know what this is, probably sick of seeing it already. It's the Formula V12 in historic Adelaide. And I just realized I'm only showing you Australian tracks so far. I'm so sorry, that completely isn't intentional, I promise. It just so happens that the Aussie tracks in this game are really good. And you just witnessed something there I want to talk about. AMS2, cold brakes, it's a thing. When you leave the pits for the first time, odds are the very first thing you're gonna do in this game is do your very best faceplant into the first upcoming wall. And that's really awesome. I mean, that is what happens with brakes in real life. That's kind of what we want to see in The Sims. So, Slightly Mad Studios, maybe take note. Not only do we like things like tire temperatures, pit stops, and car handling, we like things like cold brakes. We like things that emulate the sensation of driving a car, That's why we're racing sim fans. It's why we play games like this. And it's why we're thankful for games like... It's why we're thankful for developers like Reza, who take engines with tremendous amount of potential like the Madness engine and actually extract a proper hardcore simulator out of it. Something that SMS seemingly have been unable to do and have now completely given up on. Now, why am I showing you this track? It isn't just because, you know, I'm like, go Australia, you know, Advanced Australia Fair, da-da-da. It's one of the best model tracks in the game. I don't know what it is, but it feels laser scanned. Obviously that doesn't make sense, since it's a historic circuit. But the best feeling, like the best guess I have is that maybe they somehow got the laser scan plans from the city of Adelaide from the modern day and just applied it, like extrapolated it to a historic layout. Whatever the case, every time you see me undulate on the road, every time you see me like jump around like this, I can feel it through the force feed, like through the steering column. It's unbelievable. Even R-Factor doesn't give you this sensation. It's just, I don't know how to describe it. Like, you have to experience this to believe it. It's every bump here, juddering. When I turn, I can feel the load on the outside tires. Oh God, it's so good. You feel a car just trying to murder me every time I get on the accelerator. No assists. Sounds like a swarm of angry locusts or mosquitoes. Basically just a swarm of angry things that sound awesome. It's one of the reasons we're here in the Formula V12. It's from a bygone era when you still probably had like a 10 to 20% chance of returning home in a casket after a championship season, which to someone like me is super exciting. Maybe it's a character flaw, but it's one of the things I think modern F1 has lost. I want to see a guy wrangling a car at the limit. I just want to see them struggling to keep it on the track, like wrestling Mother Nature, much less, you know, the rest of the field. That's incidental. The goal is to finish alive. Doesn't really matter how you place. Alright, so this will be our last lap here. I can waffle on for ages. This track, it's so short and sweet. It's so easy to just keep lapping again and again and again. I'll spare you guys from that, but it looks amazing, doesn't it? That nice white balance, that blue hue. Reminds me of the white balance of R-Factor. It's one thing I always really appreciated about that game after, you know, coming off iRacing and Assetto Corsa with their very yellow hues. Historic Adelaide with its nice big curbs. Bygone era of racing, very well represented in AMS2. And it's one thing I appreciate about Riese. They know what the fun eras of motorsport were, and they render them oh so well. Okay, so let's step away from Australia, do some more domestic Brazilian style content. I'm sure the thing that Riese wants you to actually look at in this game. And yeah. Alright, we're here in Brazil. Finally, Interlagos, the major track, the selling point of this game, racing the P2 class cars. Now, why, you might ask? Well, a number of very, very good reasons. I'm currently in the Sigma P1, which to me represents some of the best modeled content in this game, one of the best sounding cars in the game, and it's somewhere in the range of prototypes that it has an insane amount of downforce and a crazy amount of power, but not so much that it drives itself. Let's see if we can just survive this turn. Oh, beautiful. Woo. Alright, quite new to this car on this track combination. Very exuberating, very fun. So yes, the Sigma P1. As far as prototypes go, it's somewhat unforgiving in its way. You really have to work for it as a driver. You can't just kind of point and shoot, rely on the downforce to handle everything for you. It's still kind of too heavy and a little underpowered for what it is. So you've really got to fight for it, especially against these guys up in front that are more nimble than us. You can see on the turning sections, they're kind of keeping their distance. Now, the other reason, as part of the 1.0 release, sorry guy, Rubbing's racing, right? As part of the 1.0 release, you can see the detection section here. What you're going to see is an upcoming DRS zone, and apparently this car has DRS. Clicked in, look at the bottom right. We got DRS. We are slaughtering these guys. Alright. Power disadvantage for the win. Since this is a 2-lap race, let's see if we can get this guy before the end. There's a second DRS zone coming up here. Let's see if we can use our power to weight advantage to win. Come on, get the slipstream under the Chevrolet ad. Let's do this. And on the brakes hard. Try not to bin the car. This is where they're going to start catching us. I'm glad they agree that rubbing is racing. I've got to say, in the grand scheme of things, since this is going to be our last AI race, AI is raceable now. It's serviceable, but it's not the best in the business. I think if Frieza are going to work on anything, I would love to see them work on the AI a little bit more for those of us who like to race offline. But again, not tragic in the grand scheme of all the things that this game does right. You know, having AI that isn't 100% there isn't necessarily the end of the world. So this is a whole heap of fun. Track looks gorgeous, especially with the depth of field effects. Oh, don't spin, don't spin. This car's very unforgiving on the limit. As long as we can keep it on the track, we can use our power advantage to take it in the DRS zone. And almost across the line in the detection zone. Come on, let's get it going. And bam, DRS for the win. They have no chance. And race over. Now I've got the cooldown lap active. I don't know when that happens. It's a new feature for me. But I'm certainly not gonna, you know, it's not my car. I don't have to worry about the engine blowing. So let's move on to our very last race that will test the parameters of the AMS2 engine. So we're gonna do a wet race in probably the new Ginetta GT4 car. Very fun little thing. Doesn't have too much power and will hopefully stop me from spinning and binning it on the very first corner. So let's go check that out. Alright, for our wet weather test, here we are at Oulton Park in the Ginetta GT4 car, which has just come out with the 1.0 release. I tried it out before in some of the dry weather and it was a really fun, low-powered car. Really cool to learn tracks with. I think I've got my headlights on. So one thing I'm noticing in this game is the headlights don't really illuminate much unless it's dark. I'm hoping that's something that gets looked at. And windscreen wipers seem to work, so we should have everything we need to make it work. Try it out. Alright, rain droplets have been rendered. Awesome. Can't argue with that. Windscreen wiper works. Oh, bit of lightning in the back. And let's check out the wet weather driving. Is it as good as P-Cars 2 and or... Whoa, okay then. Standing bodies of water, that's a good start. Another one? Oh yeah. So aquaplaning is a go. Can confirm. I think I've got my headlights on. I can't tell because I can't see a bloody thing. I can tell you that my pace through this circuit is a heck of a lot slower in the thunderstorms. That's a good start. Make it nice and easy through here. A lot of feedback through the force feedback to let us know what's happening. Very dancy, very slick. Oh god, nice and easy through here. Oh, that looked really nice. So on the whole, it's definitely giving me a different sensation. Whether or not it's as good as Project Cars 2 or... Wow, okay. Brakes weren't a thing. Brakes were not a thing there. Whether or not it's quite as good as ACC or Project Cars, I'm not sure. As you can probably tell, I'm not much of a wet weather driving guy. You know, I have as much fun in real life in the wet weather as anybody else that owns a turbocharged flat 4 boxer car, but other than that, I very rarely ever race in the rain in sims. So I'm definitely not the expert to go to here. In terms of little unquantifiable factors, I've got to say that Project Cars 2 and ACC are probably still ahead. There's still more random aquaplaning, more just sliding off the line, you know, little things like that you might expect. When you've got the rubbered in line and it's slick, things just get utterly insane. I'm not really sure if that's something that's rendered in this game. I don't know if they have some kind of a real road line rubbering equivalent. Even if they don't, I'm quite sure Reza will work on that in the future. They seem like a very diligent bunch of developers keen to really make this one of the leading simulators. So I'd say the wet weather, if nothing else, is serviceable for the time being. You've got all the effects are finally in. Windscreen wipers work. Rain actually travels up the windshield as you drive at speed. It's great. But other than that, yeah, I mean, possibly nothing to write home about, but very much serviceable. And very much appreciated for a 1.0 release. So, with that all capped off, let's get to our game summary. Well, I hope you enjoyed that review and run through of Automobilista 2's official release. It's a long time in between major release news in the sim racing sphere, so having a new sim, a whole new potential platform come out is always tremendous news. So whether or not AMS2 excites you personally, I would hope you're able to appreciate how much of a great thing its release is for sim racing as a whole. To leave you with something to remain excited about, some of the teased future content for AMS2 includes things such as 60s and 70s vintage touring cars, classic 70s Grand Prix cars, 80s Group C vehicles, 90s British and German touring cars and GT1s, a pack of GT3s and GT4s, road legal supercars, off-road cars, and an assortment of tracks including Bathurst, Spa, Hockenheimring, Silverstone, and potentially even the Nürburgring. With all that promise laid out, be sure to smash that sub to stay up to date with future sim racing news and reviews, in particular all the upcoming content for AMS2. If you didn't like this video, that's absolutely fine. Just smash that dislike button twice to show me who's boss, and until next time, we'll see you guys later.